What's up, everyone, and welcome back to Racially Speaking, where we have real and honest conversations about race as it's viewed through the lenses of faith, family, and vocation. As always, I'm your host, David Phipps, and you are listening to episode 15. Last week, I was finally able to sit down with my good friend Ashley Bush. Yes, this is the same Ashley Bush who's a big deal in the creative industry. She's a calligrapher and designer, and she's also the wife of my good friend and two-time guest, Zach Bush. But more, Zach and Ashley are two of my very best friends, and I've learned so much from them over the years. So to say the least, I've really been looking forward to doing this episode with her. So without further ado, I hope you guys enjoy this conversation between me and Ashley. All right, well, hello, Ashley Bush. Thank you so much for doing this and coming on the show. This has been a long time coming. The stars have aligned. We've been able to make this happen. I've been looking forward to this one for a super long time. You and, of course, Zach, amazing husband, my good friend. From episodes 1 and 2, you guys have, been instrumental in even kind of putting this thing together as we've kind of talked back and forth about doing something like this. And, of course, you're the Ashley Bush that did the artwork. Those of you listening, you've seen the graphic, and then if any of you follow me on social media, Ashley was so kind to do the artwork for some of those posts. So, Ashley, I've thanked you personally, but just so everyone knows and can hear me do it now, thank you so much for your support and just everything I've learned from you over the years of our friendship. And, just having these kind of conversations that we're about to have now for years.
Years.
Yeah, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for letting me talk.
Yeah, so we've been talking about doing this for a while. I've had years of conversations, and when I reached out to finally, put this on the schedule, I sent you probably the broadest array of topics and questions I possibly could have. As you said, so just everything. I was like, I guess I should probably whittle it down. But with that said, I don't really want to. I think because of time, we won't get to everything. But I would love to, because all of the topics I think are going to be extremely helpful. But let's just start. For those of you that have been living under a rock, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, what you and Zach do in Memphis.
I'm Ashley Bush. I'm a calligrapher, and I'm married to Zach, who y'all already met. He's a 3D artist, and we run a calligraphy shop. We make 3D calligraphy pens, and we live in Memphis. It's 99 degrees today. I'm getting used to it because we just moved here in October. So this is my first Mid-South August.
99. I didn't put together that it got that hot there. That is.
Yeah. And it's just so humid. Like, it's terrible.
Oh, man. Do you guys have central AC at least and stuff?
We do. Yeah.
Okay. Whew.
We have the blessing of air conditioning.
Thank God.
Yeah.
We'll come back to some of the reasons why you guys moved and how that's been going a little later on. You mentioned your business, and not so much specifically about the business, but you have a larger following than most of us. So I even wanted to start there a little bit. So you're a calligrapher. You have a pretty successful calligraphy and pen business with you and Zach. For those of you that aren't able to see Ashley right now, you're white, Zach is black. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff that has to do with your guys' relationship and family life and whatnot. I wanted to even just start with how you use your platform. I think you have thousands of followers last time I checked. I meant to check right before we came up on here. But how do you, why are you so outspoken on just even your platform for your business, which is also a personal platform, about some of the things that we're going to talk about? And, I've talked about a lot on this podcast already with other people when it comes to racial justice and injustice.
I feel like I don't talk about it that much personally, because I could talk about it all day long. So it always feels like I could talk about it more. Don't make me talk about it more. But I do it because I really don't feel like I have a choice. It's my space. And while I love that people are there for the calligraphy and the art, it's just all of me there, and Zach and I run it together. And a lot of the things I post about feel very personal. And I really feel like it's my obligation as a Christian to use whatever's been given to me to do what's right, to love others. And so, yeah, I probably should post more.
Oh, no. I think you post a good amount, but
A good amount.
Sure. If you want to take that to mean you should post more, sure. I'm about it.
Yep. Me too.
I mean, I touched on it with Amanda Hedgepath a couple episodes back, but I don't know, was there and this isn't just on social media, but a turning point for you, and Amanda's not in an interracial marriage, but a turning point for you where you're just like, I don't care. This is who I am. This is what I'm going to be outspoken about, and money, business, clients and stuff pale in comparison to doing the right thing, like your words were. So, hi, Chloe. Is that Chloe?
Yeah.
Hi, Chloe.
Hey, Chloe.
Oh.
What's up? You want some cheesecloth? Where's Daddy? He's mowing the grass.
Yeah, because the grass is too long.
It's very long.
Go help him out, Chloe.
Priorities, right? Yeah. You watching Moana? All right, cool.
Nice.
Okay. So what was the turning point?
Was there a point where maybe you had to, sorry. I think what I was saying, was there a turning point where you're just like, this matters more than my business and my livelihood?
I feel like I've been talking about it for probably about as long as I've had a platform. But I do have constant moments where I think about, am I going to lose followers? Am I not going to make as many sales? Cause I need this to buy my groceries, to feed my family. But at the end of the day, it's all worth it God gave me a picture for my life when I was in my 20s and having a struggle with severe anxiety and control. It was just this picture of being a woman with open hands. And so it's just one of those things that has been put in my hands that I have to stay open to. And just if I lose it all, I lose it all. It comes and it goes. And so I just have to be willing to let it come when it comes and let it go when it goes, and just do what I feel like is the right thing to do.
That's great. How do you deal with people that, I'm just assuming, inevitably come at you or push back? I don't know, come at your DMs maybe. And or people that maybe just relegate you to only being outspoken because you're in an interracial marriage. That it's just, because I think that's something I think is important to talk about sometimes, because, I'm in an interracial marriage as well. And I think it can be easy to say of course they're going to speak. They're just doing it because of their spouse or their or their kids. I don't know, how do you deal with those kind of two things?
Yeah, people are going to think whatever they're going to think. And I get that a lot. Oh, she's married to a Black guy. And I can't control that. So I have to let that go to an extent. But when I get comments from people or DMs from people, as long as they're not derogatory, I've gotten plenty of those that are just name calling. And those are blocked. But I really just try to lead with I believe this because I'm a Christian. When I wear my Black Lives Matter shirt and I get comments from people, I just say, oh, I'm a Christian, so that's why I have to wear this shirt. And so I feel like it kind of stops people because they don't expect.
So what kind of comments? I can imagine, but to be helpful for everyone listening, what kind of comments would you get? from being a
like
white woman wearing
shirt.
Black Lives Matter? Yeah.
Yeah. Why are you wearing a shirt? Or I've had people say to me like, all matters.
All lives matter.
Face.
Yeah.
And usually to that I say, oh, I wish that were true. And then they're like, oh, okay. So I just kind of leave it on. I try to just leave it on Jesus. Like, hey, this is what I've been called to. So, like, I'm not going to have a fight right now.
Yeah. All right. That's awesome. Just letting your, Jesus faith speak for itself. That's really helpful.
A lot of times, it is Christians who are saying this to me. So I think it kind of gives pause to like, wait, what?
So do you have advice on, sorry, I feel like that's maybe what I was trying to get at. Do you have advice on, because there's a divisiveness innately between Christians, which me and you are both Christians, but, we'll wear Black Lives Matter and care about, supporting
social
them,
justice.
whether it's, whether it's not even just talking about the organization, but just the phrase, whatever. I know it's got a ton of different meanings now, is what it is. Like, how do you engage with Christians that push back, who inevitably are kind of like, well, if you're a Christian, why are you wearing a Black Lives Matter shirt? Do you have any, I mean, I'm almost asking personally, do you have advice on how to engage with that? I have my own take, but help me out.
Like specifically the Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, kind of like what you were talking about with differentiating the phrase. It's just so much bigger than an organization, and it didn't even start as an organization. It started as a battle cry.
Yeah.
Like from the depths of your soul, like to be seen. And so it's like, what is a more Jesus statement? Something like that like the oppressed, the cry to just be seen and just be given dignity and seen for the value, the inherent innate value that you've been made with. For me, that's what the statement is. And so like anything against that is not of Jesus. So when you follow Jesus, like you believe that everyone is worthy of dignity. They're made in the image of their creator. And that's literally the point. Black Lives Matter. And if you look at history, you would have to be willfully ignoring that it just hasn't historically been true for systems, for people groups. So.
I feel like when people have the all lives matter clap back, for me, it's been somewhere. I don't necessarily say I wish they were true, but I maybe go a little more cynical and say, exactly, or like case in point.
You're proving my point.
Yeah, right? They do all matter. That's Anyway, that's helpful. So I think we're on the same page with how to engage with that sort of thing. All right, you mentioned you guys, and if you've listened to episodes of Zach, to our listeners, you guys are in Memphis, Tennessee. As much as I hate it, you're not with us in Little Radford anymore. But you guys moved there to pursue the community you are in, which predominantly Black community, and you guys have been there. Has it been 2 years now, or is it just one?
No, October, not even a year yet.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
It feels like 2 years.
Feels like 2 years.
But we were in Pennsylvania before that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's right.
So that's why it feels longer for you.
Longer for me. Longer for me. It's all about me right here. So yeah, I wanted to talk about that a little bit. I've obviously talked to Zach a lot about it, but I know that you have a unique perspective. Like I said, you guys are in a predominantly Black community, and me and Zach unpacked that from his perspective and how that's just been, for the first time for him, something just amazing for him. And I know that's been great for your family. Again, when I reached out and I said, I gave you a huge broad spectrum of things to talk about. One thing you brought up is unpacking, what were your words? dismantling
white supremacy
personally. So I would
crucifying white Jesus. Yeah.
Whew, let's go.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about that because you have just a very unique perspective on that. I think maybe not unique, but yeah, sure. Unique.
No, it's unique.
Not unique. I'm trying to think.
All of these thoughts and ideas are from other much smarter I've learned from.
We butcher the word unique, I know. I'm trying to think of a better word. Anyway, you've got a helpful perspective on this. Okay. And I know that I don't know if it was you or Zach brought this up to me. So there's you, for those listening that know Ashley, you're very outspoken, don't mince words when it comes to these things. You brought up being confronted with your own, I think, maybe biases. Mm-hmm. Now that you are being confronted naturally by being the minority for the first time in your community. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know where you want to start with this because I know it's big.
Yeah, it's multifaceted.
Can you speak into that a little bit, what that's been like for you?
Yeah. So I think I grew up in a pretty typical white person setting, just like suburban, all white, and parents didn't talk about anything. They were kind of like, oh yeah, we're colorblind. And that seemed a really great step, I guess. And they came from, my grandfather he's alive anymore. He was extremely racist and just a terrible human being. And so that seemed like a step to my parents to not talk about race at all, but still the environment that they kept me in and also not saying things taught me something. And so I had naturally, as we all do, biases and stereotypes. And throughout my life, it's just been an unearthing of those. I have the curse blessing, I call it, of being the bad child. I was always the bad child, and I got caught for everything. So I've also been aware of like my badness. And so that's, I think, helped in being able to confront these things in me that come up. Like I guess also being combined with the bad child, I'm also very rebellious, and that's also my curse blessing. Mm-hmm. I feel like it can be used for good, and it's been used for bad a lot growing up. And proximity has been like it's key to learning about anything. So surprisingly, in my like tiny town in like the Appalachian Mountains, that was like all white, really small. I went to a middle school where the principal was Black, but like everybody else was white. And 14-year-old me, I was dumb, and I got caught repeating racist joke. And thankfully, I had a Black principal and there was one Black teacher, and they were like, no, like I was like kicked out. Like, and so I think in another situation where there's a power dynamic of like white people are in charge, things like that happen all the time. And yet those severe responses aren't norm. So that was a blessing for me to be confronted with like, this is not happening here. And that was able to happen, which that was in the year 2000, which, that's not like, oh, back in the old days, but like, it's not 2021, like there wasn't like social media. I know. So that's like 2000 in the South, like that at that school, they were still like not recognizing like MLK Day. It was like Robert E. Lee Day. Like, this is like South. And so to have a power dynamic like that was necessary. Like it was good for me. See, no, this isn't just a joke. This isn't like, like this is serious.
They weren't being too oversensitive, just lighten up, it's a joke mentality.
No, and it was a blessing to me. Mm-hmm. And I hope there was probably like 2 Black kids in my grade. I hope that through that they felt valued. Yeah. Like, yeah, this is a joke, but this is like, we're not going to tolerate it. Like, you are worth it to kick this person out. Like, you know? And so I'm thankful for that response. And it's an example of like power, why we need.
That's an amazing example.
Yeah. And so I feel like that started kind of an introspective, like, journey. And then meeting Zach in college and marrying him was just like, interracial marriages are just otherworldly. Like, there's not really anything like them. Like, learn to love others, people who truly are others, have another culture like that feels so different from you, than by stepping into a marriage with them. Like, because you have this oneness now. So all of a sudden, I'm this goofy white girl, and now I'm walking into spaces, and all of a sudden I'm like, there are no Black people here. Like,
which you didn't grow up thinking about.
Oh no, would have never walked into a store and looked around and been like, there are no Black people. It would have just been like normal. Oh, this is just how it is. And so this proximity, like how much closer proximity can you get than like marrying someone? That was like setting fire ablaze. It was like baptism by fire.
Yeah, man, these examples are phenomenal. So I want to recap because I don't want to let that just get swept under the rug at all. So with the dynamic of you getting kicked out of school for making maybe an innocent, I won't say innocent, but seemingly innocent racist joke, you're saying was kind of a catalyst was really a blessing, as opposed to maybe and you said that was back, in 2000, but I'd say that's still an issue now, 2021, as opposed to not taking it seriously. And I mean,
letting it slide.
Yeah, I admire, I know you said you had a Black principal and 1 Black teacher, but regardless of what race they were, I admire their boldness to just say, nope, you're gone.
Yeah.
Because of specifically what you said of there being like 1 or 2 Black students in the school. Because it could be super easy and is super easy to just be like, what's the big deal? It's not, it's 2 people, or maybe not even thinking about there being 2 people.
Right.
It's just, could be so much easier to not do the paperwork, to not start the drama, but instead lay down the hammer and be like, nope, that's not going to fly. And just trusting that the fruit of that is going to be beneficial, even though it doesn't seem like that in the short term. I kind of think about cancel culture, that something like that might be attributed to, we can't joke around anymore. What's this,
Right.
Cancel culture, we can't, everyone's got to be oversensitive now. And that's what I think about because I've had plenty of people, we were talking about Black Lives Matter, but I've had, plenty of conversations where it's just like, well, how far are we going to go? Everything.
Right.
Everything is, everything. We're going to get rid of this then. And my reaction to those conversations are just like, I don't know, maybe.
Right. Exactly. To care, one thing to care for people, that's like to care for the victim. But this was also a gift to me. So I'm thinking, okay, if that hadn't happened to me, what would be the next joke that I would like, what kind of precedent does it set in my life that I can get away with? It starts with that joke, next thing you know, I'm Karen throwing a fit on Victoria's Secret. And it's caught on a, iPhone like that. It's, the gift of repentance, the gift of being shown what is wrong in you. I'm thankful that at 14, which is, I say this, middle school me was the worst version of me. And thank God, because 20-year-old me, 30 could have, I'll take middle school me being the worst version. And so it's kind of a similar principle I try to use with my kids too. Of sure. we're gonna get it. We're gonna try and get it out now.
Yeah. I think it's helpful even combining what you said with your upbringing with your parents and then your grandparents, because I think that's another pushback on maybe the current awareness culture we have nowadays, or today, I guess, 2020, 2021, with the, oh, well, they didn't mean it, or, well, they're not overt racists. They mean
Right.
well type thing. It's like, well, one, most of the time we're not saying they're overt racist. So, two, like, as if, for me, I'm like, as if I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
And then, but no, seriously, it's helpful to, because I think people can relate to that, pick apart, okay, there's overt racism, which takes pretty much nowadays no boldness to really point out and recognize. But then taking
everybody
the color,
sees that that's wrong.
Right, the colorblind mentality, or let's just keep the peace and not talk. So I think whether it's, you gave your parents as an analogy, but then also in the school, it could have been way more hands off. But then that's still perpetuating this. It's not that they're overt racists and encouraging racism. They're not discouraging racism or being anti-racist, which is where I think people want to pump the brakes, because that's where it gets hard. That's where, for me, in my opinion, the grunt work. Okay, do you believe these things? Not just after someone's shot and killed and it's all over the news. Like, are you unpacking these things that have led up to this? Which I think is where people just have to realize, oh, this isn't a culture thing. This isn't.
And do you see your
culture.
contribution to it?
Yeah.
Do you see your contribution? Do you see your benefit from it? Like, so the thing about white supremacy is, like, it's dangerous to everybody.
Yes.
White people too. It's such a scary, slippery thing because we don't see it and it feels really good, So the greatest gift that I can have in terms of, like, uprooting, like, we see bad, we're like, that's bad to lie, that's bad, like, to hurt that person, but we just don't see this badness in white. It's like so subtle and in so many things that you don't even notice how deep the roots are in you and your thinking. And so that's what's scary about it for me, and why it's so important, why I would leave all my family and uproot and, go to Memphis, Tennessee, because I'm not letting this take root in my life, and I'm not going to let it take root in my children's life. And so, yes.
Yeah, that's great. Did you want to talk any more about just what it's been like for you personally, being a minority in your community for the first time?
Yeah. So, okay. So leading up to that. So, okay. And then marrying Zach.
Yes.
That wasn't even like, oh, I do. My eyes are open. I see it all. And I mean,
it was not like that.
No, okay. I didn't say my vows. And then all of a sudden I, like, understood.
I'll just make sure everything. I heard you right.
Yeah, no, it was not like that. We, of course, dating, had conversations. Like, he had to say to me, hey, do your parents know that I'm Black? And, my, gut reaction was like, who cares? But in the back of my mind, being honest, it's like, oh, okay, yes, this does matter. Like,
they do care, maybe.
Right. Yeah. So this does have implications. So there's just been so much, like, provision and grace in that. And, like, I mean, talk about Zach being vulnerable and taking a risk on, like, marrying a white girl. Like, that could have, I've seen interracial marriages where it's just gone terribly. Like, they're not seen or heard or seen fully. And I've heard so many people with, like, it's kind of the colorblind narrative of, like, I loved that person, like, despite their color, like, looking past their color, all of that. And that just bothers me so much, because I love Zach because of his Blackness. That's so part of who he is and what makes up the beauty of who he is, that for me not to see that, or to, like, oh, the audacity for someone to be like, they loved him despite his Blackness, like, is just ridiculous to me, because
Yeah, I mean, usually if you say despite, it's something bad.
Right. Like something that has to be looked past. Like we don't see it. Like it sits weird with people when I say like, yeah, I love him because of his blackness. Like people do not like that. That just doesn't feel right. But it's true. There's a beauty in it. And he has his own unique brand, that makes him him, that doesn't like speak for the overarching Black community. But I love like that it's been a gateway to be able to witness this beautiful community and all the different facets of it and be able to and enjoy it and learn from it. And I mean, I had to unpack so many things after being married and like being raised in the Bible Belt and like evangelical white Christianity, unpacking things that's like, to be a Christian, you have to be Republican. Like I remember being like 2 years into marriage and like really thinking like, yeah, this feel like, wait, I thought you had to be a Republican to be a Christian, or like women can't be president, and no one explicitly said that to me. I wasn't like sat down and like, hey, you never be a Democrat, but this formed in me. So throughout marriage, it's been that. And then proximity, like being at my in-laws' house and seeing like Ebony magazine. And I just remember sitting with it and like, what is this feeling that I'm feeling? Oh, I feel left out. This doesn't feel right. Why is this a magazine? And being able to like sit with that and talk with Zach and talking with his dad. And like, I feel like that was before we had kids. So that was probably like 8 years ago. That was probably the biggest light bulb moment for me in just sitting through that feeling of like, oh, every other magazine is catered to just that, like that's the grossness of white supremacy, that like, here's one thing that I'm not included in. And there's this in me that's like, I'm not included in that. Yeah. Like that, how disgusting. Like I'm so used to seeing reflections that look like me in books and TV and all these things that like one moment, it makes me feel some type of way. And so that really started opening up all those feelings. And the hardest hump for me was the idea of white privilege, which is so hard to grasp, especially if you haven't had like a super ideal life. Like if you've gone through struggles, that was hard.
So how do you engage with that? That is, because I think that is a really helpful and also at times contentious thing to go back and forth with. So like white privilege is already a buzzword. So listeners, don't tune us out right now. White privilege, but then, there's so many, and this is now and historically, you mentioned, well, I've had struggles too. So I know what oppression is like. Or I'm, especially if it's financial, or based on merit.
I worked for everything I've got.
Everything,
like if you come from poverty and like.
Came from poverty, which, to me, a lot of my pushback with that idea is, again, it's a smokescreen. It's another version of all lives matter. Like no one's saying that you didn't go through a struggle. No one's saying that was good or that's not a thing. You're missing the point. We're talking about injustice that is just you can't argue that it's not there, and it's just it's everywhere. We're not saying that it doesn't matter or that even no one else, especially white people, don't have difficulties.
It's when you hear the word privilege, it just feels very like silver spoon. Like I was not raised like that. I went through hard things. I'm not privileged. Yeah. But
you're also not saying that all minorities or all black people have zero privilege. It's just a understanding historical narrative that what I've seen is, I think with the white privilege argument, I don't know if you'll agree, is people want to individualize things at convenient times, or make it a collective American. Or collectively make it a collective thing at convenient times. It ebb and flows based on privilege, which is super ironic.
Based on how it benefits you. Yes. for me, what was helpful was, I mean, I could bring everything back to proximity if you want me to. Like, it really is so key to just seeing, like, for me, it was like Band-Aids. Like,
Yeah.
when I walk down the aisle, I can get a Band-Aid in my skin color. Makeup aisle. That is the privilege.
Yes.
It's a privilege. It doesn't mean I've had an easy life, but these are small things that add up day after day. All the places you go, you flip open a magazine, you turn on the TV, all these little things that are just these extra steps that you have to go through to get, like, that doesn't look like me. How do I find this for me? Like, those were the, oh, okay. You're not saying that my life has been easy, but if I don't know those struggles, if I'm not aware, if I don't walk into somewhere and see, like, oh, there's all white people, or this is all, if I don't see any of that, then of course, like, it's not going to make sense to me. So your eyes have to be open, You have to wake up, as the Bible says. You have to be woke.
Thou shalt be woke.
Thou shalt be woke.
Yeah, I wish that people took the opportunity to make things relatable where they could easily be relatable instead of resisting the opportunity to do that. An example is, like, a lot of this stuff is relatable, but people want to make it relatable in ways that make us move backwards instead of forwards. So, I mean, an example I'd say, I think I've told people before in some conversations, but are like, I think most people are right-handed, and most things are made for right-handed people.
Right.
I would say. I think of stuff like golf clubs. Like, there's a time where I used to golf. It's really hard to find left-handed golf clubs. Like, I have a couple of friends that were left-handed, and it's not like, you have to kind of look. Or special
calligraphy.
order them. I was gonna say, is that true in calligraphy?
Oh,
so
yeah.
like, it's just the norm. It's like, oh yeah, I forgot about left-handed people.
It just makes it that much harder.
Yeah, and that's not necessarily isn't a racial example, but I've used that example of, like, just think about that, for left-handed people, or if you are left-handed, like, how do you feel? Like, you don't really, you might not even think about it because you're just used to having to jump through those extra hoops, to use your words.
Or being a woman. I mean, there's,
I don't say yes like I know, but yes.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, there are things that men don't have to think about when they, go out for a run. And so it's similar. And I feel like that's why you see a lot of Black men and white women relationships, because we're both oppressors. Like, we can relate on a type of oppression, being a woman and being Black, but we also maintain an oppressor status, me with, like, being white and him being a man. So that's helped us come together. And all of that has led to Memphis and where Memphis. We are now. And we, when we moved in, we met a bunch of our neighbors. They came over and they're amazing. And they were like, why are you in Memphis? Why did you go to Memphis? And we told them, like, our church. Yeah. We wanted a church where the power dynamics were, like, there were people of color calling the shots. But also, like, we told them that we're trying to get away from white supremacy. Like, not that we can, like, Memphis is the place to go to get away from white supremacy, but this is part of our journey. I mean, we said it in different terms. And it's just been, another baptism by fire, because proximity, like, we moved down here, it hasn't even been a year. So I've been married for 11 years. I feel like, okay, I've been thinking through these things and reading and learning and talking, like, okay, I feel like not beginner level. And yet I'm, like, still finding things coming up in me in the middle of Walmart. And like
what?
Like, I'm the only white person here. So, I mentioned before, I struggle with anxiety. So I have a panic disorder. And so I'm constantly thinking of like, okay, I need help. Like if I have a panic attack, how am I gonna get out of this situation? And so I'm in a new environment and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm the only white person here. What if I need help? Is anybody gonna help me? Why would they help me? You know, like I wouldn't help me, you know, like, so
Okay.
I'm working through like these feelings of being like hyper aware of being white, which I've never had to deal. And so for Zach, this is great because like he's lived his whole life being hyper aware that he's not white. So this is what I wanted, you know, like, and just because this is what I wanted doesn't mean that it's been easy. Like I knew like all this stuff was going to come up in me and that was the whole point, but it's still hard. And ugly. And I try to confront it and name it and like really name it. And like, this is a stereotype. This is rooted in racism, white supremacy. This is rooted in lies, you know, like really calling it what it is. What is true? What is true about this moment and trying to speak the truth and coming, you know, first like these thoughts and things, I'm coming to Zach and like being open and like, hey, repenting of like, this is so gross and this still in me. And like, I'm feeling this way and I'm trying to figure out like, am I feeling nervous because I'm a woman and there's a lot of men, you know, like trying to safety issue. Like, am I feeling this way because they're Black? Am I feel, you know, like trying to really think through this in me and just being brutally honest and working through it with Zach. And like, it's lies. Like, and that's what white supremacy is it's lies. That's like the whole point of it. But I found that ironically in my fears of like being alone and not being accepted, but also trying to acknowledge that I'm compromising this space. So I have never lived in a neighborhood where I've had neighbors that have taken me in, like my neighbors have taken me in, which is crazy because I know that I compromise the space, like what it means to let me into this space, to their home, to their community. Like, and yet they do. Like, I mean, when I have panic attacks, I call my neighbor and they feed me a lot of food. And that's like, I mean, talk about love language. Like I call them my Memphis family because they have literally just like, they were like, oh, you don't have anyone here? Okay. And they've taken me into like all aspects of life. Like we run to the store together. Like it's just life.
Yeah.
And I feel honored. Like it's not lost on me that like my whiteness, like I said, compromises the space like heavily. Sure. And so it's been a blessing. Like it's all a learning experience. I mean, moving where we are and dealing with everything in me has been about like, it's this work in me and my family. And there have been so many gifts in it. And my neighbors have been like the biggest gift in all of this.
That's awesome. So there's a lot of stuff I want to pick apart, but with the example, because I just want to be clear, like you said, being specific with naming stuff. So the example of being in the store, being the only white person in there, you use the phrasing of, you know, your fear, and you have legitimate panic disorder. You're not just saying, you know, I was randomly nervous or something. So you have those kind of moving parts, to be clear, for those listening. But the words of, you know, why your fear is something like, why would these Black people help me? You're not saying that it was necessary, that it's a fear of the stereotypical racist view of Black people being dangerous? Is it more just you have the anxiety, but I think what you were saying, and I just want to ask, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you were saying almost, I think you said it actually, I wouldn't help me, and so that's where your fear went, if that makes sense. So you weren't saying you feared, being harmed or something like that,
Right.
of looking at Black people being dangerous, but that you were just like, why would they help me?
Which for plenty of people, that's a bias. Like you feel nervous and it's naming like, why do I feel nervous right now? And for me, if it's like, oh, I feel nervous. Why do I feel nervous? Oh, because I'm the only white person here. Why does that make me feel nervous?
Mm-hmm. And are you saying that it's important to kind of maybe not necessarily arrive at on the spot answer, but to just sit with that and unpack, your words, dismantling it in you?
Yeah. And letting it work through you. I think naming something is just so powerful. Naming it and then saying it out loud, it loses its power. Like that and that's true. That's something that I learned with anxiety. Like when I'm panicking, for me to say it out loud, I'm panicking. It loses its power. It's not worked up in my head. It's not like, oh my gosh, I'm a racist. Like, or not even thinking through, like just to be able to face it. And like, we all have these biases. We all have these stereotypes that have been either explicitly or implicitly taught to us. And we have to get comfortable with this process of naming it, seeing it for what it is, and seeing for how harmful it truly is.
And not laying into the shame aspect. Because I think shame is used as a crutch. Like with white, I'm not just talking about white the book guilt. Because I know it's a buzzword now, but white fragility, white guilt, whatever. I know that even gets people upset bringing that up. With the term white fragility, it's a thing. And it perpetuates these conversations from being moved forward. It prevents these conversations being moved forward. And when there's the guilt or the discussion group, white people crying when we're trying to have discussions on race, and then the results are white people get coddled and said, oh, it's okay. And it's like, no, it's not okay. I don't want people to be crying, but that's what we're here for. This stuff isn't okay. I'm not here to hear.
We're not here to make you feel better.
It's not an apology circle, but it's also not a pat on the back circle. It's going to be okay. People are reluctant to dismantle. And I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying it's fun.
No.
But I'm saying if you're going to come to the table wanting to, be more woke or be an advocate, these are the kind of things you got to do. And I think your examples are, hitting the nail on the head, even going back to your example of being kicked out of school is perfect. Of like, that could have so easily, and I think more often than not, goes the other way.
Oh, yeah,
like, 100%. Well, this isn't, this isn't a big deal. So it's, it's not.
They're kids.
Do we really want to use the R word, racist?
Right. Yeah.
Bring this up or shine light on something in our school system or something. No, I love that it was just like, this is racist. You're out of here. Yeah. And people can think what they want, but that's something that doesn't happen. And when it does, it's often completely taken out of context. We don't have time to unpack if that was actually happening, but this is a great example of, the you bring, whether it's from your family, your school experience, and now just your entire journey has been super, super helpful. So you guys have 3 beautiful kids now. I want to ask you a little bit about that conversations, maybe not just between you and Zach, but between you and Zach, and how you guys talk to your kids or plan to talk to your kids because they're young.
We talk to them.
Yeah,
they're never too young.
Yeah. Okay, great. You guys are interracial marriage, 3 beautiful kids. Your kids are, I guess Kai's a little darker, but blonde hair, blue eyes, very white.
Yes.
What do these kind of what do these conversations look like with everyone looking white except Zach?
Yeah, so that's a whole other like crazy element that we talk about. Like, how is he going to prove that these kids are his when he's out? And we talk with them about like they know that they can't throw fits like out in public. Things that they can't say. They can't say, "Don't touch me." They can't yell things when they're out with him because, like we explained to him, Daddy doesn't have the benefit of the doubt. You have the benefit of the doubt. Daddy doesn't have the benefit of the doubt. And so we talk through this stuff all the time. And we try to be like very verbal in walking into a space and saying, if there's no Black people, saying, there's no Black people here. Like just saying things like that and that can be so awkward when your kids start doing it because that's the point, is that they start doing it. And I've had like so many awkward moments. We were at like the Christian bookstore once, and Micah, when he was little, he loved snow globes, and it was around Christmas time, and like white Jesus is everywhere. And like, you will not see white Jesus is not allowed in our house. And the kids know because white Jesus is not real. He is just pushing the white supremacist agenda, and Jesus is not about that. And we were at this bookstore, and there was a snow globe, and he really, really wanted it, and he carried it. I told him, nobody, no. Hey, but he carried it all the way up to the cash register, and she was like, "Oh, you're gonna get that?" And he was so upset, and he was like, "No, because it's white Jesus. Why don't you have brown Jesus?"
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, yeah, sorry, buddy. White Jesus is not historically accurate, and it's racist, and we're going to have to put it back. And she was just like, this woman is crazy. But wow. Like they know. And so we try to combat explicitly all of the implicit things that are coming at them through TV shows and books. So like we're very active in what they read, what they see, proximity. Who are they living around? Who does mommy and daddy invite into the house? Who, like, these are what's forming ideas and biases and concepts in their mind. Like with Chloe, being blonde hair, blue eyed, she's going to see her reflection everywhere.
Yeah.
I don't need any dolls that look like her. I don't need to buy dolls that are white with blonde hair and blue eyed. So we don't. She has all the dolls that we bought her are brown dolls.
So even though they do look like her, you don't buy them.
Right. Yeah, no, because she is, and you'll see it when people say things to her all the time. And so we have to combat what she's going to see. You walk down the toy aisle, it's all white baby dolls. So we are really explicit about pointing out the beauty in other people, whether it's their language, whether it's their hair, whether it's their eyes, whether it's their skin color.
Yeah, I think
because
we learned that.
Because you think not saying anything is like appropriate.
Yeah.
But we say, oh my gosh, look at her beautiful dark brown skin. Look at his eyes. Look, like the book that you recommend, they kiss in the corners. Mm-hmm. Look at his beautiful eyes. Yeah. We try to point it out and tell it over and over again. Look how God designed this to be, and this is beautiful. And then trying to pair it with the heaviness of like historically, that has been why people are oppressed because of that. And that's not how it's been designed. That's not right. So, having that constant conversation.
That's great. Yeah. Caitlin and I think learned that from you guys. So that's something we try and implement with our little ones it's a delicate balance, like of pointing out people of color and things that maybe they're not as used to seeing. And so that's been really helpful, but it's been also a learning thing for me personally too, of like getting used to that. I grew up in majority white culture as well. And it even just getting used to and being okay with it feeling strange, but having it be a good thing. And also finding that balance.
Especially
of like
when people hear you.
Yeah, and not overcompensating, like not, stressing out and pointing every single thing out in like a awkward way for the person being talked about. Like, obviously, know your setting.
Yeah.
We're not
Don't
just
be
saying
weird,
this
guys.
lightheartedly.
Don't be weird.
Yeah, don't be weird. But yeah, that's been super helpful advice.
Yeah, because they'll start to do it in public. Like, they will do it in public. That's the thing with kids, is that you bring it in public and they still do it.
I wasn't with them when this happened, but Caitlin had the kids out one time, I think, out to dinner in Chipotle or something. And I don't know why it came up, but she was explaining, which I don't know why it came up because I pretty much have no hair, but she was explaining what balding was. And then I think in the middle of her talking, Ollie looked over her shoulder and said, "That guy's bald," like pointing like behind her, yelled. And she's like, "Oh gosh, yep,
yes,
no coming back from that. Yep, he's bald."
I know, that's kids. Yep, and and they do that, and like
could be worse, but that
kids have done it so many times. We're like, I mean, I won't say some of the things. Like, it's been like, oh, okay, yeah,
let's get out of here.
You try to be like, right, yeah. That's what happens. Then you're in awkward situations and like, but it's just hilarious. I love when Chloe's out and she's like, "Oh, that looks like Daddy." And people are always like, "What?" This little white girl.
That's great. Yeah, we were. I'm trying to soak up the years until we have to have the harder, more intense conversations. So, we were in Baltimore. Caitlin was doing a photo shoot, and I was just walking around with the kids. And it was a very diverse area or setting at the moment. I think we were at the National Harbor, and there was just, for whatever reason, people walking around like of a bunch of different cultures, and we just heard a bunch of different languages. And he actually loves hearing other languages, especially Spanish. And he just said, "There's a lot of different languages around here." I was like, "Yeah, there definitely are, buddy." And I was like, "What do you think about that?" And he just said, "Good," and then kept going and chasing birds or something.
Is that the right answer?
And I was like, "I'll take it." And we just, moved on. I didn't harp on it too much, but I was like, "Okay,
it's
I'll
good
take it."
That you're having those, because that means that you're in situations where they're being confronted with like different. I mean, Micah does it all the time. Same. He's like obsessed with other languages, and he'll be like at the pool, like, "Is he speaking Spanish? I'm going to go up and say hola." And I'm like,
yeah,
all right, this could go terribly, but he does it, and.
Yeah, that's awesome. Man, this has been awesome. I think you'll just have to come back. We'll have to unpack even more stuff. But you're like the queen of recommendations, I feel like. And I always like to give guests opportunity for some recommendations. I was going to narrow it down, but I haven't talked to you in a while, so what do you recommend right now that people should be checking out? It can be books, podcasts, movies, shows.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm a mom of 3 small children, so I feel like I don't get a chance to consume hardly anything.
Children's recommendations are okay.
Children's recommendations. Okay. Yeah. We try not to watch or read books I would love if there were no white people. That's me, being extreme. But we try to limit it
so
at
rebellious.
Least, or have at least the main characters be not white. So like our bedtime routine is like reading Hair Love, reading like Isaac Kiss in the Corners. Those are Chloe's favorites. We have a lot of like historical children's book. Obviously like Trillia Newbell's books. She had the new one for older kids. I
don't think we have that one.
Yeah, one of our friends let us borrow that, so we've been working through that. And then also like we've been homeschooling because like what everything is right now, and so finding like curriculum that's not whitewashed, and you have to just kind of build it on your own, I guess. And I feel like that's a lot of life with kids, is like it's gonna be whitewashed, like at church, and so we just try to point it out and being like, Jesus white. Jesus wasn't white, was he? No. Okay, like so it's like okay, and so then they start to do that too, like, oh, Jesus wasn't white, or like pointing out things. So yeah, those are our
That's great.
go-to books. You didn't give me any questions. Zach was like, well, do you have your questions? that he's gonna ask you. I was like, he didn't send me any questions, so I didn't get a chance to like think of any recommendations. But I did love the PBS series on the Black Church. That I guess that's not even that recent, but that was I loved it.
I haven't watched it.
You gotta
so
watch
that's a good reminder. Yeah,
I watched with Micah The Chosen, which is like kind of cheesy Christian, but actually pretty good. Like you know, not as much color as I would love, not as dark as I would love the color to be, but
we watched like the first 4 episodes, me and Caitlin, and like you, I always expect those shows to be super cheesy, super inaccurate, but enough people I trusted told me it's good. You gotta watch this. I was like, all right, I'll sit down, and I thought it was great. We haven't finished it or anything, but
no, we haven't either. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Ashley. Doubly thank you for doing this, as you just showed my colors, and I didn't give you a ton of questions I had time to think about, but I probably threw you to
just winging it.
Yeah, I probably threw you to the wolves a little more than most people, but you killed it.
I feel like you're going to have to do a lot of editing.
No, it wasn't intentional. I was like, this is where I got to go with this with Ashley, so.
Yeah.
Super, super helpful. Thank you so much for doing this.
I hope that people feel like, hey, I can dismantle white supremacy in my life, too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I'm not saying, like, go move to all black neighborhoods. Like, just
go move to Memphis.
Yeah. Although, yes, I would love anybody to move to Memphis. That would be great. We have houses for sale on it.
I know, I see you post those all the time. I'm like, I think you post those stuff, and I send Zach Radford houses probably every 3rd day or so. Like,
yep.
Here you go.
He's like another house in Radford.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Ashley. I'll let you go. Thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, you're welcome. That was fun.
Peace. Thank you all again so much for listening. This podcast was created to elevate the voices of the BIPOC community and our allies, and to invite anyone else to listen in, learn, and grow with us. As always, don't forget to check out the show notes for all of the links to the recommendations we shared. Our artwork was created by the great Ashley Bush, and the music you are listening to was created and produced by the also great Dylan Dent.